Good day, everyone. We are the Week 12 reporters. Our topic for today is educational programs for learners with communication and language disorders. When we say educational program for learners with communicational and language disorders, is the speech-language pathologies work with diagnostic and educational evaluation to provide comprehensive language and speech assessment for children. So, the learning outcomes of this topic is all about describe the special educational program for students with speech and language disorders. Number 2, describe the classroom management techniques to maximize learning of the children with speech and language disorder in a regular classroom. When we encounter this educational situation, what can we do to help learners with speech disorders and language impairment? So we must need to take a focus because children with language impairment may struggle to understand verbal communication. So we could also use communication cards with them. So a lot of techniques to use that if we encounter this situation as a teacher. The concept that just educational program for learners with communication and language disorders. In the line with the practice of inclusive education, the child with speech and language disorder is kept in the regular classroom as much as possible. Inclusion encourages immediately intervention as the teacher corrects the child's mispronunciation. Inclusion minimizes the isolation of the children for speech environments and social development. Classroom management provides for interaction. The child works with the special education teacher or speech pathologist for speech rehabilitation. So why we must keep in regular classroom as much as possible when the child has communication and language disorder, because students with speech and language problem may have trouble with reading, writing, or speaking aloud in class. Treatment is aimed at improving skill through speech-language therapy. So, na student na once ka natin naka-involved ng student nga na ay in any situation as communication and language disorders is we need to keep them regular classroom. Kaya na usahay maka-distract sa ilaha ang banha nga na dili sila comfortable sa lugar. So, we must keep them in a regular or we must asa sila dapit comfortable para maka-concentrate sila sa ilang environment. Kay the one yung maka-distract sa ilang environment problem. Kay na mga tao nga kanang lahi sila nilihukan o dili sila comfortable, so dili sila maka-concentrate, dili sila maka-gain of knowledge. Why we keep them in a regular classroom? Because keeping them in a regular classroom is to maximize learning environment in academics and behavior, to reduce the noise that surround them and may affect distraction. In educational program for learners with communication and language disorder, and the child works with a special education teacher or speech pathologist for speech rehabilitation. The pathologist, it means pathologist is a scientist who studies the causes and effect of disease, especially one who examine laboratory samples of body tissue for diagnostic or forensic purposes. So, pathologist carried out a post-random examination. So, sila ang nakabalo kung saan pag-handle o saan pag-guide sa student with communication and language disorders. The American Speech-Language Hearing Association offers some suggestions for the regular teacher, Garguelo 2003, in an exclusive class and for the special education teacher as well. It is introduced changes in the home and school setting, especially if the child has central auditory processing problem. So, kanang na mga hearing problem or magdisod og paminaw or hanap ang pagdungog, dili linaw. And to help the child, Garguelo 2003, to help the children focus and maintain attention, give him or her a seat that is away from auditory and visual distractions. A seat close to the teacher and the blackboard away from the window or door may be helpful. So, Garguelo 2003, it is association that help the student with communication and language disorders katong mga maglisod og dungog, kanang dali ra visual distraction, kanang dali ra kayo ma-distract, and this ay mo nilahang way na kanang pamaagit how to how the children concentrate the lesson. So ako like akong gingon ganiha is to away the people surround them nga nakadistract sa ila sa pagpaminaw. So next report.
So number 2, reduce external visual and auditory distractions. A large display of posters or cluttered bulletin board can be distracting. Provide the child with a study carrel. Earplugs may be useful to block distracting noises. Check with an audiologist to find out if the earplugs are appropriate and which kind to use. So guys, are you familiar with study carrel? So ang study carrel mao na siya cubicle so that ang mga bata is naa sila'y focus, then ma-avoid ang distractions. Kay kanimang good nga klase sa mga bata is need sila og focus jud.
So this is the following rules that are very helpful to improve the listening environment of the students. When speaking to the class or giving instructions, first you must gain the child's attention before giving directions. Make sure that the students, especially children, they are listening while gastorya ka in front of them so that they can follow the instructions and they can understand. Second, speak slowly and clearly, but do not over-exaggerate speech. As we all know that children are very naughty or lively, no, bisa nasa sa eskwelahan, bisag unsa jud na ilang buhaton. So, as you speak in front of them, you need to speak slowly, loud, and clear. Because some children or students dili na ganahan maminaw because dili na sila makasabot sa imuha because paspas kay kamo istorya. So, you need to speak clearly and slowly para masabtan jud sa mga bata. And also para ma-avoid nga sige ug pangutana ang mga bata. Use simple, brief directions. So, especially in doing tasks, no, this rule makes the children or students to accomplish their tasks immediately because if the direction is very simple and brief. Give directions in a logical, time-ordered sequence. Use words that make the sequence clear, such as first, next, and finally. This rule also should be applied, especially in doing activities, games, whereas children are very lively. So it is important that instructions or sequence is clear for them so that dili na ka magbalik-balik explain and mas dali masabtan sa mga bata. Use visual aids and write instructions to supplement spoken information. And this rule also very helpful, no, especially for students or children that cannot easily catch up by listening, na mas prefer nila to have a written instructions kay mas dali nila masabtan, dali sila makasunod sa direction, dali nila mabuhat ang task because they can listen as well as they can see it and read it. Emphasize keywords when speaking or writing, especially when presenting new information. So when you speak in front of them, it is important na i-emphasize jud nimo ug unsa jud ang what is the reason why you give the instruction how to do the activity para nga maiwasan nga malibog ang mga estudyante, especially childrens, no, they are not kasagaran sa mga childrens are not fast learners. Kinahanglan na balik-baliko ng instructions jud para nga masabtan nila. So, it is important na you emphasize the keywords para nga masabtan jud nila so that they can do the activity well without any further questions. And preliminary instructions with emphasis on the main ideas to be presented may be effective.
Use gestures to clarify informations. Example of gestures: body movements, head. Example for nodding and face. Hand movement or gestures like giving a thumbs up or pointing something or some or just waving your arms around when you talk. Sign language also is an example. Next is vary loudness to increase attention. So, dapat dili permihinay ang tingog, kay pag hinay mangod is mawalan og gana ang mga students, then dili sad kaayo ka madungog. Dapat mo-increase ang imong tingog para ma-awaken and mo-increase sad ang attention sa imong mga students. Next is check comprehensions by asking the child questions or asking for a brief summary after key ideas have been presented. For example, after sa imong discussion, mag-ask kag some questions like summary or reflection para matest nimo kung nasabtan ba nila ang imong topic and kung na ba sila na-learn or kung naminaw ba jud sila. Next is paraphrase instructions and information to shorter and simpler sentences rather than just repeating them. To make it short, i-direct to the point na lang ang mga important information or kung pwede step by step to avoid confusion or disorder. Next is encourage the child to ask questions for further clarification. Para ma-address or ma-clarify nimo itong mga gikalibugan nila para mas masabtan jud sa imong mga learners. Next is make instruction transition clear. For example, mogamit ka og first, second, finally, next, for example, or etc. para mas masabtan jud sa imong mga learners ang flow sa imong discussion. Last is review previously learned material. I-review tong mga previous discussion or topic before mag-proceed sa next topic para ma-maintain and dili malimtan dayon ang mga na-learn sa imong mga learners sa previous topic.
Recognize periods of fatigue and give breaks when necessary. We should give attention to our students and give them a break if we saw them tired, burnt out, or frustrated, especially to those children with central auditory processing disorder, because they can turn or understand the lesson properly if they are frustrated over something.
For example, nagi-pa-memorize verse si teacher. Then pagka-recitation na si student, misang saon niyang recite kay mamali jud siya.
Pwede na to sila palingkuron usa, then pabaliko na lang after 2 minutes.
If the student is so frustrated over learning there is a big chance for them to have a mental block or can't understand the lesson properly because they are tired physically or mentally. A break is a big help to take the brain rest from thinking and refresh the mind.
Next is avoid showing frustrations when the child misunderstands a message. For example, during discussion, nag-ask a question ang teacher, then one of the student is mali iyang answer. You should not show frustrations for them not to feel embarrassed or ma-disappoint sa ilang selves because mali ilang answer. That might result of having low self-esteem or worse, mag-stop or participate sa klase. You should address the mistake in a pleasant or calm way for them not to feel bad, then correct the mistake afterwards. Next is
avoid asking the child to listen and write at the same time. For children with severe central auditory processing problems, ask a buddy to take notes or ask the teacher to provide notes. Tape recording classes is another effective strategy. Central auditory processing disorder, where children's ear and brain don't function well together. With this ability, listening and writing at the same time is not an option.
there is a possibilities that they can't understand the lesson or can't cope up because their ears and brain don't function well together.
So, dili na to sila pwede pasulaton while nag-discuss kay naay possibilities nga dili sila kasabot sa discussions.
So, ang atong buhaton, we can let them write the lesson first before discussion or provide a printed concept notes to save time then proceed to discussion.